Bismillah-ir-Rahman-ir-Raheem.
Long ago, when the world was still young, and every creature carried a secret inside its heart, the birds of the earth gathered in search of their true king. They had flown across countless skies. They had seen mountains rise and oceans break. Yet something within them still whispered, there must be more. They were restless, tired of the noise, tired of the chase, hungry for a truth that no eye could see. And so, one morning, under the golden sun, the birds came together, thousands upon thousands, sparrows, peacocks, nightingales, hawks, parrots, doves. Each one carried its own longing, and each one carried its own fear. Then from the silence rose a voice, the wise Hoopoe, a bird of ancient knowing. His feathers shimmered with the dust of many journeys. He looked upon them and said, O birds of the world, our hearts are empty because we have forgotten the king. There is a place beyond all places, a light beyond all lights. There dwells the Simmer, the true sovereign of all creation. The birds grew silent. Some trembled, others wept. The Hoopoe continued, the road is long. It crosses 7 valleys, valleys of fire, of love, of nothingness. And only the brave will reach the end. But know this, whoever takes one step with a pure heart, God will take 1,000 steps toward them. The wind rose softly. The flock began to stir. And so, their journey began. Not across the world, but into the soul itself. Part 2. The gathering of the birds. From every corner of the earth they came. The valleys trembled with color, feathers of emerald and gold, wings of ruby and sapphire. The nightingale sang of love. I have already found my beloved, the red rose. Why should I search for another king? The parrot, glowing green, said, I desire the water of immortality. My beauty is my crown. I need no journey. The proud peacock spread his tail, whispering, I was cast from paradise. I only wish to return there, not to wander again. The duck, forever washing his wings, said, the water is my world. I seek no mountain, no fire. The hawk, fierce and loyal, cried, I already serve kings. I was born for royal hands. Why serve a hidden one? And the dove, trembling softly, murmured, the world has wounded me. I am too fragile to fly such distance. The air filled with excuses, just as human hearts fill with reasons not to change. Then the Hoopoe rose again, feathers shining in the sun. Oh, my friends, he said, each of you carries a truth, but also a chain. The nightingale's rose will wither, the parrot's beauty will fade, the peacock's paradise is a mirage, the duck's waters will dry, the hawk's kings will die, and even the dove's sorrow will pass. There is only one love that does not end, the love of the eternal. The birds grew silent. Their eyes turned toward the horizon, where the sun melted into dust. The Hoopoe spoke once more. If you truly wish to know who you are, then leave behind what you have. Every feather of pride must fall, every illusion must burn. Beyond the mountains lie 7 valleys. Cross them, and you shall see the Simurgh, the king who is the mirror of your soul. The wind sighed through the trees, as if the world itself was listening. One by one, the birds bowed their heads. The journey had begun. Part 3. The excuses of the birds. The moment the Hoopoe spoke of the journey, the birds began to tremble. Each one carried a secret weakness, a fear they could not hide. Their hearts wanted truth, but their minds whispered doubt. The nightingale was the first to step forward. He said, "My heart belongs to the rose. Her fragrance is my paradise. Her color is my heaven. Why should I leave her for a king I have never seen?" The hoopoe replied, "O lover of the rose, your love is only the shadow of true love. The rose fades with every sunrise. If your heart belongs to something that dies, then what will remain when it is gone? Seek the one whose beauty never fades." Then came the proud peacock, his tail shining with every color of the world. He said, "Once I lived in paradise, but my own vanity cast me out. I wish only to return there. I cannot bear another journey." The hoopoe said, "Your wings are still chained to the memory of what was. Paradise is not behind you. It is within you. To find it again, you must die to your pride." The parrot spoke next, his green feathers glittering in the sun. "I am searching for the fountain of immortality," he said. "I do not seek the king, only the water that keeps me alive." The hoopoe smiled gently and said, "You are already immortal, but you do not see it. The life you seek cannot be found in water or gold. It is the life that begins when you lose yourself." Then the duck said softly, "I am happy in my pond. The water is pure, the reeds are tall. Why should I leave my peace?" The hoopoe answered, "Your pond is small and your sky is narrow. You were not born to swim in circles. You were born to fly." The hawk lifted his sharp eyes and said proudly, "I serve kings of the earth. I sit upon their shoulders and taste their glory. Why should I serve one I cannot see?" The hoopoe said, "You serve kings who die, and you die with them. The true king is unseen, yet his presence keeps the stars from falling." The dove stepped forward, her voice trembling. "I have suffered much," she said. "My heart is weak. I cannot endure another pain." The hoopoe looked upon her with tenderness. "Your sorrow is your doorway," he said. "Through that pain, the light will enter. Do not fear what breaks you, for it also opens you." The birds listened. Each saw their own reflection in the weakness of the others. The love of the nightingale, the vanity of the peacock, the fear of the dove. They realized that every excuse was a chain, every fear a veil before the truth. Then the hoopoe said, "You have spoken your hearts. Now the time of words is over. The king waits beyond 7 valleys, valleys of fire and mystery, of love and surrender. Whoever desires him must fly." The flock grew silent. Their wings trembled with both fear and longing. At last, with one cry that shook the sky, they rose together and began their flight toward the unknown. Part 4. The Valley of the Quest. When the sun rose again, the world was silent. The birds stood at the edge of their known sky, gazing into the endless horizon. Behind them was comfort, safety, the familiar hum of the old life. Before them, only mountains, storms, and the whisper of the unseen. The hoopoe spread his wings and said, "The first step is the hardest. The path will not open for those who hesitate. You must leave behind all that you call yours, your nests, your pride, your names. The quest begins when nothing else matters but the truth." And so they flew. For days they soared through burning winds and falling rain. They crossed deserts where no tree had ever grown. They passed oceans where waves rose like walls of glass. Some grew weary and fell behind. Others pressed on, hearts trembling with devotion. As they flew, they began to see the world differently. The colors of the sky no longer looked the same. The blue was deeper. The wind carried voices they could not name. In their hearts, something quiet was beginning to awaken. a yearning not for things of earth, but for a light they could not yet see. The Hoopoe said to them, "Do not be deceived by the beauty of the world, nor by its pain. Both are mirrors, reflections meant to guide you inward. Every hardship is a door, every tear is a step. You cannot find the beloved until you are willing to lose yourself." Many birds began to understand. The nightingale no longer sang for the rose. The peacock no longer dreamed of paradise. The parrot no longer searched for eternal life in water. Each began to see that their real journey was not through air or distance, but through the chambers of their own heart. Still, the quest was cruel. The heat burned their wings. The cold cut their feathers. One by one, the weak fell into the dust. Some turned back, whispering, "The path is too long, the king too far." But the few who endured, who refused to give up, began to feel a strange peace. In pain, they found sweetness. In loss, they found freedom. And in silence, they began to hear a voice that said, "I am with you. I have always been with you." The Hoopoe looked upon them and smiled. "You are no longer seekers of gold or heaven," he said. "You are seekers of the heart." And so the first valley was crossed, the valley of the quest, where every desire is tested and only sincerity survives. Those who emerged were no longer the same. Their eyes held both exhaustion and light. Their wings were tattered, but their souls were awake. The path ahead was still long, but now they had begun to truly see. Part 5. The Valley of Love. They flew into a sky unlike any they had known. The air itself was alive, glowing with heat, trembling with the breath of something vast. It was as if the sun had come down to meet them. This was the Valley of Love. At the very edge of the valley, the Hoopoe spoke. "Here, every heart will burn. You will not survive by thought or strength, only by surrender. Love is fire. It consumes all that is not love." The first to feel the flame was the peacock. His colors dimmed. His pride melted away. He cried, "My beauty is dying." The Hoopoe answered, "Then you are beginning to live." The nightingale followed, his song breaking into tears. "I have sung of love for the rose," he said, "but I've never known what love demands." The Hoopoe said, "To speak of love is easy. To be burned by love, that is the truth." As they moved deeper, the fire grew hotter. Every bird felt its feathers scorch, its fears unravel. They tried to hold on to themselves, but love demanded everything: their names, their memories, even their idea of who they were. Some cried out, "We cannot bear it." Others whispered, "Let it burn." Those who fled the fire returned to the world unchanged, but those who stayed began to glow. They had become like candles, each one aflame yet filled with peace. The Hoopoe told them, "In this valley, reason dies. The mind cannot measure love, only the heart can. Here, the lover and the beloved become one. No difference remains. Only light days passed, or perhaps centuries. Time had no meaning in the valley where love devoured all things. The birds no longer saw themselves as many. They were one voice, one breath, one longing. At last, when the fire softened into golden light, the Hoopoe said, "You have crossed a second valley. You have learned that love is not a feeling, but a death. The death of self, the birth of the eternal." The survivors looked at each other in silence. They were not the same birds who had entered. Their eyes no longer sought the sky. They carried the sky within them. The path ahead still stretched far. The valley of knowledge waited beyond. But now, their hearts were radiant, and their wings shone with the fire of the beloved. Part 6. The Valley of Knowledge. The air grew calm after the flames of love. The sky dimmed to a soft silver, and the mountains were quiet. The birds flew gently, their hearts still glowing but their thoughts uncertain. They had lost everything, yet they felt strangely full. The Hoopoe said, "This is the Valley of Knowledge." Here, the traveler learns that knowledge is not found in books or words, but in the silence that remains when the self disappears. The birds looked around and saw a vast plain covered in mirrors, each mirror shining with a different light. They saw themselves reflected again and again, some faces proud, some fearful, some sorrowful. The Hoopoe said, "These mirrors are your thoughts. Every image you worshipped, every idea you trusted, all are illusions. Until the mind bows, the heart cannot see." The parrot cried out, "But I have studied the sacred names. I have memorized the wisdom of the ancients. Does that not make me close to truth?" The Hoopoe replied, "If knowledge does not humble you, it blinds you. You can know the path by heart and still never take a single step." Then the hawk said, "I have seen the world. I have flown higher than kings. Is that not wisdom?" The Hoopoe smiled. "Wisdom is not in what you see, it is in how you see. The eyes that look for glory will find only dust. The eyes that look with love will find God in every grain of sand." The birds grew silent again. They began to see the meaning of the mirrors, that everything they had called knowledge was only the shadow of something deeper. Every truth they thought they knew had been only a reflection of their own desire. As they crossed the valley, they forgot their questions. Words faded, thoughts dissolved. Even the cleverest among them could no longer explain what they felt. There was a peace beyond understanding, a stillness that whispered, "Be empty, and you shall be filled." The Hoopoe said softly, "Those who seek truth with the mind will find confusion. Those who seek with the heart will find the infinite." And so they passed through the Valley of Knowledge, a land where the wise become fools, and the fools become wise. When they left that valley behind, they no longer tried to explain the journey. They had learned to listen, to trust the silence between every breath. Ahead waited a darker, quieter land, the Valley of Detachment, where everything they still clung to would fade like smoke. Part 7. The Valley of Detachment. Beyond the Valley of Knowledge, the sky turned pale and silent. There was no sound of water, no whisper of wind, only stillness. The birds flew slowly, their wings heavy with exhaustion, their hearts strangely light. The Hoopoe said, "You have learned that knowing means nothing without emptiness. Now, you must learn to be free, truly free. This is the Valley of Detachment." One of the birds asked, "What must we leave behind here?" The Hoopoe answered, "Everything that says, 'mine.' Your joys, your sorrows, your hopes, your fears, even your desire for heaven must fall away. You cannot reach the eternal while you are still holding on to anything that dies." The words fell like soft rain upon their hearts. At first, they did not understand. How could one live without desire, without dreams? But as they continued, they saw how every desire tied them to the earth. Each memory, each ambition was a thread. And those threads formed a cage. One by one, they began to let go. The peacock no longer dreamed of his lost paradise. The nightingale no longer sang of love or sorrow. The parrot no longer feared the end of his life. They had grown lighter, freer. Even hunger and thirst seemed far away, as if their bodies had forgotten themselves. The hoopoe spoke again. Detachment does not mean to hate the world. It means to see it as it truly is, passing, fragile, and beautiful in its impermanence. When the heart stops grasping, it begins to rest in peace. The birds flew through vast emptiness, a sky without color, a horizon without end. There were no mountains now, no rivers, no signs of life, only light mist and quiet. And yet, within that quiet, they began to feel something new, a stillness that was alive, a presence that watched them from within themselves. The hoopoe said, "When you stop chasing shadows, the light finds you. When you let go of the world lets go of you. And in that release, you begin to glimpse the face of the one who has always been with you." They crossed the valley in silence. No songs, no prayers, no words, only breath and surrender. By the time they reached the other side, they were no longer travelers. They had become the journey itself. Ahead, a faint glow rose from the horizon. The hoopoe whispered, "Beyond this lies the Valley of Unity, where all forms dissolve and all hearts become one." Part 8. The Valley of Unity. The air before them shimmered like liquid gold. They could no longer tell where the sky ended or where the earth began. Everything breathed the same light. As they entered this valley, their eyes were opened in a new way. They saw the wind carrying prayers, the stones whispering verses, the rivers singing praises to the unseen king. Nothing was silent anymore. Even their own shadows seemed alive with devotion. The hoopoe said, "This is the Valley of Unity, where the seeker vanishes and only the one remains. Here you will see that there is no you, no me, no this or that. All things are reflections of one face." The nightingale looked at the sky and said, "Every star I see, it is him." The peacock bowed and said, "Every color I once called my own, it was his light playing through me." The parrot cried softly, "My voice, my song, even my breath, all of it belongs to him." The hoopoe smiled. "Yes," he said, "the wave is not separate from the sea, and the sea is not separate from its source. When the self disappears, everything becomes divine." The birds flew deeper into the valley. They could no longer feel their wings beating. It was as if the wind itself carried them. Each beat of their heart echoed with 1,000 others. They began to feel that they were not many travelers, but one traveler moving through countless forms. The hoopoe spoke again, his voice softer now, almost dissolving into the air. "When the sun rises, all shadows vanish. So too, when unity is seen, all differences fade. You will no longer say, 'He is here and I am there.' You will say, 'He is, and there's nothing else.'" The birds wept without knowing why. They looked upon the mountains, the trees, the sky, and in all things, they saw the same light, the same life, the same love. In that moment, even the thought of searching began to fade. What they had been seeking was not far away. It was the very breath that had carried them all along. The hoopoe whispered, "You have crossed the Valley of Unity. You are near the end, yet there is no end. Only wonder remains, the wonder of the infinite within the small, and the small within the infinite. And so they continued, their hearts now weightless, their voices silent with awe. Ahead lay the next mystery, the Valley of Wonderment, where the soul stands speechless before the majesty of what it has found. Part 9. The Valley of Wonderment. They entered a silence that felt larger than the sky. Here, certainty dissolved like mist at dawn, and the heart stood barefoot on the edge of infinity. Nothing needed to be named anymore. Every name was too small. The world looked the same, yet everything was different. A mountain was no longer a mountain. It was an unread verse. A river was no longer a river. It was a question that contained its own answer. The birds could not tell whether they were moving forward or being carried, whether time was passing or bowing in place. In this valley, wonder was their only language. They spoke without speaking, asking without asking. How can the drop contain the sea? How can a wing made of dust be lifted by an eternal wind? How can a heart that breaks become the doorway to a joy that does not break? The Hoopoe's guidance grew softer, as if words themselves feared to profane what could only be felt. He said, "Here." The mind kneels. Not in defeat, but in worship. To know is to be humbled. To be humbled is to see more than knowledge can bear. The nightingale listened and felt a sweetness he could not sing. His throat remembered every song, yet no song would rise. Each melody seemed too narrow for the horizon that opened within him. He realized that all he had ever loved was a hint, a perfume from a garden beyond the world. He wept without sadness. The peacock looked upon his feathers and saw galaxies turning. Every color was a door, every pattern a path. He understood that beauty had never belonged to him. It had only passed through him on its way to the one who paints the morning. The hawk, who had once measured greatness by height, discovered that the nearest greatness was inside the smallest silence. He lowered his gaze and found the vastness he had chased in the sky resting inside a single breath. The parrot, who sought immortal waters, tasted a stillness that did not thirst. He whispered, "If the soul drinks this, it needs no fountain." A breeze moved through them, and they felt as children seeing rain for the first time. Not as water falling from clouds, but as mercy falling from a hidden hand. Each droplet carried a secret. Each secret was larger than the world. Their questions changed shape. They no longer asked why, but how shall we be faithful to what we have been shown? They no longer asked, where is the king? But, how shall we walk as those standing already in his light? The Hoopoe said, "Wonder is the veil that protects what you are not yet ready to bear. It is a lover's kindness. Do not tear it with impatience. Do not worship it as an idol. Let wonder teach you to be small, and the infinite will fit in your chest." They passed through valleys within the valley. Surprise that broke into praise, awe that melted into gratitude, silence that opened into prayer without words. They learned to bow without bending, to sing without voice, to listen without ears. Sometimes a stone gleamed like a star, and a star felt near, as a stone. Sometimes they forgot their own wings and discovered that walking was also flight. Sometimes they felt as if the journey had never begun, because the destination had always been where their hearts had learned to yield. They began to love their unknowing. It held them like a cradle. To be empty here was not poverty, but readiness. They wore their questions like garments woven of light. At the far edge of wonderment, A hush deeper than silence gathered around them. They sensed that the last walls were thinning, that the final distances were preparing to end. They felt the beloved not as a distant throne, but as warmth rising from within. A light that needed no sun, a nearness that needed no steps. The Hoopoe spoke once more. Children of the wind, you have seen that all paths are one path when walked with a surrendered heart. But what remains cannot be carried by a name or held by a wing. Ahead lies the valley where even the traveler will vanish. Nothing will be left but the one. The birds did not fear. Wonder had taught them trust. They gathered close, not as many, not yet as one, but as a chorus that had forgotten the difference between voices. They moved forward like dawn moving across a sleeping field. Behind them, the valleys glowed as memories of lessons learned. Before them, no road appeared, only a clarity that needed no road. They went on, lighter than light, into the place where light forgets itself. And so they crossed the valley of wonderment, not by understanding, but by consenting to be understood, not by reaching, but by letting themselves be reached. Ahead waited the final unveiling, the valley of annihilation, and beyond it, the meeting with what cannot be met, the seeing of what cannot be seen, the finding of what has never been lost. Part 10. The Valley of Annihilation, Fana, and the Arrival. They came to a place where the sky had no color and the ground had no shadow. It was not darkness and it was not light. It was the edge of everything that could be called I. The Hoopoe said, "This is the last valley. Here, the self must fall away like a worn garment. You cannot carry your name into the presence of the nameless. You cannot bring your face to the face that wears all faces." Some birds stepped forward and felt their memories loosen. Their old triumphs, their old wounds, their private stories that once made them heavy or proud. All of it began to drift like smoke, disappearing into a sky that could not hold smoke. Others clutched at what remained, a secret ambition, a hidden fear, a small wish to keep at least a feather of identity. But the valley was a flame without heat, a sea without waves. Nothing could be kept here. What was borrowed returned to the giver. What was the giver remained. The Hoopoe said, "Do not be afraid. When a drop vanishes into the ocean, it does not die. It becomes the ocean. When the candle melts, it becomes the light it was always meant to be." One by one, they consented to vanish. Some surrendered easily and fell like snow into a river. Some fought gently and dissolved like salt into water. Some broke open and found that breaking was a doorway they had been circling all their lives. Wings turned into wind. Songs turned into silence that sang. Tears turned into the clarity that needs no tears. Many birds had begun this journey. Only a few had reached this place. And when the last veils thinned, when even devotion had no one left to perform it, a small company remained. No longer many, not yet one. 30 birds, stripped to the essence that cannot be stripped. They stood before a vastness that did not stand before them. There was no throne, no crown, no form to kneel before. Only an intimacy so complete that distance could not remember its name. A quiet rose that was not sound. A radiance rose that was not light. They felt themselves seen by an eye that was their own. They felt themselves held by hands that were their breath. They felt themselves named by a name that had been speaking through their lives since before their first flight. What is the Simurgh? The question tried to form. But questions had no wings here. Then the unveiling came, not as thunder, but as recognition. A mirror appeared where no mirror could be. They looked, and the mystery wrote itself in an old play of syllables. Simur, and in their language, see more, 30 birds. They saw not an image imposed from beyond, but their own essence returned to them from the one who is beyond all beyonds. They did not see themselves as they had been, feathered, weary, separate. They saw the we that had been hidden in every eye. They saw that their flight, their losses, their burning and silence, their wonder and surrender, none of it had been towards something far. It had been a turning of the heart toward what is never left. They understood that a king had not been missing. It was the kingdom of the self that had been noisy. They understood that the path had not been long. It was their insistence on walking as someone that had made it seem long. They understood that the valleys were not places on a map. They were veils within the soul. Quest, loosening desire. Love, burning the husk. Knowledge, humbling the mind. Detachment, freeing the grasp. Unity, dissolving the dividing lines. Wonder, opening the mouth of the heart. Annihilation, lifting the last name from the tongue. And now, without a name, there was nothing left to separate them from the one who is called by all names. The mirror did not flatter. It revealed. They saw that every bird they had met along the way, the fearful dove, the proud peacock, the learned parrot, the faithful hawk, the love-sick nightingale, had been chambers in one heart, roles in one play. They saw that the Hoopoe had never been outside them. The guide had always been the most patient part of their own being, the wisdom God had planted and guarded like a seed. They bowed, and bowing disappeared into stillness. Praise rose, and praise disappeared into the praised. Love burned, and love disappeared into the beloved. No edict descended, no trumpet sounded. The revelation was as simple as water remembering its source. They were not granted a new life. They recognized the only life. They were not given immortality. They recognized the immortal. They were not crowned as kings. They recognized the only kingship. What returned to them as gift was not glory, but gentleness, not power, but mercy, not the right to rule, but the responsibility to reflect. A knowing settled in them like morning light, that God is nearer than the next breath, that the world is a classroom and a cradle, that every creature is a verse in a scripture without end. The Hoopoe, now indistinguishable from the voice within, spoke without words. Go back through the sky you crossed. You are not who left, yet you are no other. Carry no banners, claim no rank, ask for no followers. Be the wind that helps wings remember. Be the water that teaches thirst, the name of its home. They did not turn to leave. There was no turning. They did not step away. There was no away. They simply found themselves where the world had always been waiting, among trees and stones, among faces and needs, among tears that seek a shoulder and hands that need bread. And yet, everything had changed. They moved through days like light moves through glass, not as something added, but as what the glass was made to receive. Wherever they alighted, a kindness remained, a quiet that made other hearts curious about its source. They spoke less. When they spoke, words were bridges, not weapons. They worked more. When they worked, labor was worship, not burden. They loved broadly. When they loved, it was not hunger, but overflow. People asked them, "What did you see?" They could not answer with pictures. They answered with patience. They answered with forgiveness. They answered with bread shared, and doors opened, and burdens lifted at dusk. In the evenings, when the sky softened and children laughed in the lanes, they felt the beloved move through the ordinary, like fragrance through a garden. There was no need to climb mountains to pray. The kitchen was a sanctuary, the marketplace a place of remembrance, the sickbed a holy ground where God bent close. If pride came to their door, they gave it water and sent it on its way. If despair sat at their table, they fed it hope until it remembered its own feet. If anger rose in their chests, they watched it gently until it bowed its head and learned a kinder language. They were not angels, they were ripened humans. They still knew fatigue and winter and the ache that visits honest hearts. But now their pain was a passage, not a prison. Now their joy was gratitude, not possession. News of them traveled as news of cool shade travels in summer. People called them saints, and they forgot the word as soon as it was spoken. People called them fools, and they smiled because wisdom had taught them the relief of being misunderstood. At night, when the world slept, they placed every day back in the hands that had given it. They said without speaking, "All of this was yours. If it was good, let it grow. If it was unripe, let tomorrow make it sweet." Sometimes, alone beneath a quiet sky, their hearts trembled with the first awe again. They remembered the deserts and oceans, the burning and the silence, the moment the mirror opened, and gratitude rose like dawn over a field of forgiven names. They had not brought God down to earth. They had learned to see that earth was never without God. They had not become more than themselves. They had become themselves without the walls. And should anyone ask them for the secret, they would say, "Begin with the quest. Let love burn you clean. Let knowledge humble you. Let detachment free you. Let unity show you the one in the many. Let wonder teach you to be small. And when nothing is left to lose, let annihilation reveal that nothing was ever lost." Thus, the story of the birds reached what stories call an ending. But those who had truly heard knew it was a beginning, dressed in the clothes of an end. The king was not found as an object, nor reached as a destination. The king revealed himself as the life behind life, the light within sight, the mercy breathing everything into being, moment by moment. And the name Simurgh, once a riddle, became a remembrance, that the many return to the one, and the one appears as the many, and love is the bridge no foot can cross, and no heart can miss. Part 11. Epilogue. The return and the lesson. When the story falls silent, the echo remains. The birds have vanished into the light, yet their wings still move in us. Their flight was never across a sky, but through the heart of being itself. And every listener, if they listen long enough, begins to hear the same call that started their journey. The voice that once spoke to the birds still whispers through our days. Leave nothing unloved, and you will find me in everything you love. The Hoopoe's wisdom was never for birds alone. It was for anyone who grows tired of half-truths and borrowed peace. It was for those who have seen that possessions cannot fill the silence inside. For those who sense that beyond the noise of the world, there waits a stillness that knows their name. The valleys they crossed are not far away. They begin in the first honest question. They deepen with every act of mercy, and they end whenever the heart learns to rest in what it already is. To walk the valley of the quest is to want truth more than comfort. To walk the valley of love is to let truth break you open. To walk the valley of knowledge is to see how little can be owned by words. To walk the valley of detachment is to loosen your hands from what was never yours. To walk the valley of unity is to see no stranger anywhere. To walk the valley of wonderment is to stand amazed that anything exists at all. To walk the valley of annihilation is to realize that the light you sought was looking through your eyes all along. And so, the lesson returns simple as breath. What we chase outside is the reflection of what we already carry. The pilgrimage ends where it begins, inside the heart that dares to listen. Every kindness, every forgiveness, every act of service is another wingbeat of that same eternal flight. The baker sharing bread, the mother comforting her child, the student seeking wisdom, the stranger offering help. All are echoes of the birds who once searched for their king. Do not wait for deserts and mountains. Your journey is wherever humility meets hope. Your hoopoe is the quiet sense that goodness is worth more than fear. Your simurg is the life breathing through your life right now. When the sun sets and the world turns softer, remember the birds. Remember that they found the king not above the clouds, but within their own reflection. And remember that the same light looks through you, waiting patiently for you to see that nothing was ever apart from it. So end the words, but not the meaning. The story closes its wings, but the wind it stirred keeps blowing through every listening soul. If you have heard this tale with the ear of the heart, then you, too, have begun the conference. And somewhere beyond the veil of names, the beloved smiles, saying quietly, "Welcome home."